The first time Vivian Hart grabbed the black maid by the arm, 300 guests were watching. "You don't belong at this table." Her voice cut cleanly through the ballroom. Nia Brooks had barely touched the chair when Vivian pulled it backward and forced her to her feet. Crystal glasses stopped halfway to mouths. Conversations died beneath the chandeliers. Nia's face burned. Not because she had sneaked into a place meant for wealthy people. Because the card sitting in front of that chair had her name printed on it. Nia Brooks, guest of honor. Vivian snatched the card from the table. A maid is not a guest of honor. Then she tore it in half. At the far end of the ballroom, billionaire Adrian Cole had just stepped down from the stage. He saw Vivian gripping Nia's arm. He saw the torn place card. And he saw Nia trying desperately not to cry. Adrian crossed the room without saying a word. Vivian smiled when she noticed him coming. She thought he was about to correct an embarrassing mistake. Instead, Adrian reached the head table, pulled out his own chair, removed the card bearing his name, and placed it directly in front of Nia. "If she doesn't belong in that seat," he said quietly, "she can have mine." Vivian's smile vanished. But to understand why one of the richest men in New York gave his seat to a maid in front of 300 people, you had to understand what had happened 6 months earlier. Nia Brooks arrived at the Cole residence every morning at 6:10. She was 34, quiet, observant, and had spent most of her adult life learning how expensive one emergency could be. Her younger brother, Isaiah, was finishing community college. Their mother had died 3 years earlier, leaving behind more love than money and enough unpaid bills to make Nia understand exactly why stability mattered. The Cole job gave her that stability. So Nia did what people in her position often learned to do. She worked hard. She noticed everything. And she made herself difficult to complain about. There was only one person in the mansion who never treated her like she was supposed to disappear. Evelyn Cole. Adrian's 70-year-old grandmother lived in the East Wing and refused to eat breakfast anywhere except beside the enormous kitchen windows. "Formal dining rooms make toast taste nervous," she once told Nia. Nia had laughed before she could stop herself. From then on, something small began growing between them. Evelyn asked about Isaiah's exams. Nia remembered which arthritis medication Evelyn hated swallowing. Evelyn told stories about Adrian as a boy, how he once tried selling lemonade outside a country club and got thrown off the property because his family wasn't wealthy enough to belong there yet. Nobody looking at Adrian Cole now would have guessed that. At 41, he owned Cole Meridian Hotels, a luxury hospitality company operating across 3 continents. People assumed he had always belonged in expensive rooms. Evelyn knew differently. And so did Nia. One Tuesday morning, Evelyn pushed an envelope across the breakfast table. Nia immediately pushed it back. "No. You haven't even opened it." "I know that envelope face." Evelyn frowned. "Envelope face. The face rich people make right before trying to give me money I didn't ask for." Evelyn laughed so hard she nearly spilled her tea. "It isn't money." Inside was an invitation. The Cole Meridian Foundation's 20th anniversary gala. 300 guests. Politicians, executives, donors, celebrities. At the bottom, written in Evelyn's shaky handwriting, were 5 words. "Please sit at my table." Nia looked up. "I can't." "You can. I'll be working." "Not that evening." "Mrs. Cole." "Evelyn." Nia sighed. Evelyn leaned closer. "The foundation is announcing a scholarship program for employees' families. Do you know whose suggestion started that conversation?" Nia shook her head. "Yours." Months earlier, Nia had casually told Evelyn how many household employees she knew whose children abandoned school because one unexpected bill destroyed everything. She hadn't known Evelyn had repeated the conversation to Adrian. "You gave him the idea," Evelyn said. "You deserve to hear what it becomes." Nia stared at the invitation. For once, somebody wasn't inviting her into a beautiful room to carry something. They were asking her to sit. She eventually said yes. That was the beginning of the problem. Vivian Hart discovered the invitation 2 days later. Adrian's fiancée had been supervising flower arrangements when she saw Nia carrying the cream-colored envelope upstairs. "What's that?" Mrs. Cole invited me to the foundation gala. Vivian stopped moving. For half a second, her expression revealed something sharp. Then the polished smile returned. How sweet. Nia knew that tone. It was the kind of sweetness that usually arrived just before something unpleasant. You'll be working, obviously. No, Mrs. Cole invited me as a guest. Vivian stared at her. A guest? Yes. The florist standing nearby suddenly became extremely interested in a vase. Vivian stepped closer. Nia, wealthy families sometimes become sentimental about staff. It doesn't mean you should encourage confusion. Nia kept her voice calm. I'm not confused. Good. Vivian smiled. Then remember that an invitation doesn't make you family. That evening Nia almost returned it. She stood outside Evelyn's room holding the envelope for nearly a minute. Then she heard Evelyn laughing on the phone with Isaiah. Somehow, the old woman had called him to congratulate him for passing his final accounting exam. Nia put the invitation back into her apron. She would go. Not because she wanted to prove anything to Vivian. Because Evelyn wanted her there. The night of the gala, Nia wore the only formal dress she owned, a simple dark green dress her mother had bought years earlier for a cousin's wedding. When she entered the ballroom without an apron for the first time, several members of staff smiled at her. Evelyn nearly cried. You look beautiful. Nia smiled. So do you. Adrian approached them a moment later. He looked genuinely pleased. You came. Your grandmother is very persuasive. That's a polite word for terrifying. Evelyn tapped his arm. Adrian laughed and then handed Nia a small printed card. Head table. Beside my grandmother. Nia looked at him. Mr. Cole, I really don't need. You gave us the scholarship idea. I had a conversation. And sometimes conversations change things. Before Nia could answer, someone called Adrian toward the stage. He excused himself. Nia never noticed Vivian watching from across the ballroom. But Vivian noticed everything. She noticed the dress. She noticed Adrian smiling at Nia. And most of all, she noticed the place card at the head table. 10 minutes later, Adrian began his speech. Evelyn guided Nia toward her seat. Nia had just pulled out the chair when a hand closed around her upper arm. Vivian. Get up. Nia froze. Excuse me. Vivian's smile remained perfect for the nearby guests. I said get up. This is my assigned seat. Vivian picked up the place card. She read Nia's name. Then laughed. Loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. Someone has made a ridiculous mistake. Evelyn's face hardened. No one made a mistake. I invited her. Vivian ignored her. She pulled Nia away from the chair. You don't belong at this table. Now people were watching. Dozens at first. Then hundreds. Nia looked down at Vivian's fingers around her arm. Please let go of me. Instead, Vivian tore Nia's place card in half. You should be grateful we employ you. Don't embarrass yourself by pretending you're one of us. Nia heard a few shocked whispers. Her throat tightened. She could survive being insulted. She had survived worse. What hurt was seeing Evelyn's face. The old woman had invited her because she wanted Nia to feel seen. And now Vivian had turned that kindness into public humiliation. Nia stepped backward. I'll leave. No. The single word came from behind Vivian. The room went silent. Adrian was standing there. He looked first at Nia. Then at the 2 torn pieces of her name card lying on the table. Then at Vivian. What happened? Vivian released Nia immediately. Nothing. There was a seating mistake. Adrian looked at Evelyn. His grandmother said only 4 words. She tore Nia's card. Something changed in Adrian's expression. He walked to the center seat at the head table. His own seat. He pulled it out. Then he removed the card that read Adrian Cole and placed it in front of Nia. 300 people watched. Vivian stared at him. Adrian, what are you doing? He looked directly at his fiancée. You said she doesn't belong at this table. Then he turned toward Nia and pulled the chair out farther. So she'll sit in my place. And for the first time that evening, Vivian looked afraid. The ballroom stayed silent for 3 full seconds after Adrian pulled out his own chair. Then the whispers began. Vivian stared at him as though he had just embarrassed her instead of correcting what she had done. "Adrian," she said through a tight smile, "you're making this into something it isn't." He didn't look at her. He looked at Nia. "Please sit." Nia didn't move. 300 people were watching her now, and somehow Adrian's kindness felt almost as frightening as Vivian's humiliation. "Mr. Cole, I don't want your seat." "I know." That answer surprised her. Adrian lowered his voice. "That's exactly why I'm offering it." Evelyn reached for Nia's hand. "Sit down, darling." Nia finally did. Vivian's jaw tightened. Adrian motioned to a waiter. "Bring another chair." Within seconds, another chair appeared beside Nia. Adrian sat there. Not at the center of the table. Beside the maid his fiancé had just tried to remove. The meaning was impossible to miss. Vivian returned to her own chair, but the evening had changed. For the first time, people were watching her instead of admiring her. Adrian picked up his microphone again. He could have ignored what happened. He could have continued with the carefully prepared speech about donors, expansion plans, and 20 years of charity work. Instead, he looked at Nia. "There's something I left out earlier." Vivian immediately turned toward him. Adrian continued. "Tonight we're announcing a scholarship fund for the children and siblings of Cole Meridian employees, including housekeeping, kitchen, maintenance, drivers, and hourly hotel staff." Applause moved through the ballroom. Nia looked at Evelyn. The older woman smiled. Adrian raised one hand. But the idea didn't begin in a boardroom. His eyes returned to Nia. "It began because someone in my home asked a simple question. What happens when a hard-working family has one bad month and education becomes the first thing they can no longer afford?" Nia's throat tightened. That person was Nia Brooks. This time, the applause was louder. Nia wanted to disappear. But not from shame. She wasn't used to being credited for anything. Vivian was. And Nia saw exactly what public recognition did to her. The smile stayed. The warmth vanished. After dinner, Nia escaped to the service hallway. She was standing beside a stack of unused trays when Adrian found her. "You disappeared." "I'm still here." "You know what I mean." Nia looked down at her hands. "You shouldn't have done that. Given you my chair. Made me the center of the room." Adrian leaned against the wall. "You were already the center of the room. Vivian made sure of that." Nia said nothing. "Did she ever speak to you like that before tonight?" The question came gently. That made it harder to answer. Nia thought about the shoes. The comments. The invitation. The warning that being invited didn't make her family. "She has never liked me." "That isn't what I asked." Nia finally met his eyes. "You're engaged to her. And I work for you. That shouldn't change the truth." Nia gave a sad little smile. "In houses like yours, Mr. Cole, it changes the truth all the time." The sentence stayed between them. Adrian looked like he wanted to argue. Instead, he asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I need my job more than I need you to know your fiancé is rude to me." He flinched slightly. Nia immediately regretted saying it so directly. But Adrian only nodded. "That's fair." Before either could say more, Evelyn appeared at the end of the hallway. And she was furious. Not emotional. Not shaken. Furious. "Adrian." Something in her voice made him straighten. "What happened?" Evelyn held out a folded document. "I think you need to ask your fiancé." Adrian opened it. Nia watched his expression change. "What is this?" "A copy of a proposal sent to the foundation board last week." Adrian read silently. Then again. His jaw hardened. Nia looked away. "This is family business. I should go." "No." Both Evelyn and Adrian said it at the same time. Adrian handed the document to Nia. She hesitated before reading. The language was polished and professional. The employee scholarship program should be reconsidered after the gala. Eligibility should be restricted to salaried management-level employees. Domestic staff, contracted workers, drivers, cleaners, kitchen employees, and hourly hotel workers should be excluded. Nia read the final line twice. The recommendation claimed to have Adrian Cole's approval. Her eyes lifted. "You approved this?" "No." Adrian's voice was flat. Evelyn answered for him. "He never even saw it." Nia looked at the signature line. The proposal had been submitted by Vivian Hart as future co-chair of the foundation. Adrian looked at his grandmother. "How did you get this?" "One of the board members called me this afternoon. She thought it was strange because you had personally supported the original program." Nia handed the pages back. Now Vivian's anger made sense. It had never been only about a chair. Nia represented everything Vivian wanted removed from Adrian's world. Not one maid. An entire class of people she didn't believe belonged at the same table. Adrian turned toward the ballroom. "I'm talking to her." Nia stepped in front of him. Not angry. He stopped. "What?" "Don't confront her angry." After what Vivian had done, it was a strange thing for Nia to say. "She'll make this about tonight," Nia continued. "She'll say you're embarrassed. She'll say your grandmother influenced you. She'll make me the reason you're fighting." Adrian studied her. "You've thought about this?" "I've watched her." That sentence landed differently. Nia lowered her voice. "When people think staff are invisible, they stop performing." Evelyn's expression changed. "What else have you seen?" Nia hesitated. For months, she had told herself none of it was her business. Now she wasn't sure silence was protecting anyone. She told the hotel director not to invite 2 housekeeping supervisors to the foundation dinner last month. Adrian frowned. They were nominated for employee awards. "I know." She said one of them cancelled. "She didn't." Adrian became very still. Nia continued carefully. "Vivian told her the dinner had been postponed." Evelyn whispered, "My God." "And the other?" "She was reassigned to work the event instead of attending it." Adrian looked back toward the ballroom. Through the open doors they could see Vivian laughing with 2 donors as if nothing had happened. His own fiancée. Wearing his ring. Using his name. Deciding who was worthy of sitting in rooms he had built. For the first time, Adrian wondered how much of his life had been arranged when he wasn't looking. 20 minutes later, the final guests began leaving. Nia changed back into her work shoes and headed toward the staff entrance. She had almost reached the door when Vivian stepped out of the shadows beside the coachroom. They were alone. Vivian's expression no longer contained even the suggestion of a smile. "You enjoyed tonight." Nia stopped. "No. Don't lie to me." "I didn't." Vivian stepped closer. "You think because Adrian gave you his chair, something has changed?" Nia didn't answer. "It hasn't." Vivian's voice dropped. "You are still an employee. I am still going to be his wife." Nia looked at her calmly. "Then maybe you should start acting like someone who deserves to be." Vivian's face changed. For once, Nia had surprised her. "You have no idea what you just started." "I didn't start anything." Nia opened the door. "You pulled me out of that chair." She walked outside. Vivian remained standing there. But neither woman knew Adrian had entered the hallway seconds earlier. He had heard the entire conversation. And in his hand was the foundation proposal carrying an approval he had never given. This time, he didn't call Vivian's name. He simply looked down at the document. Then at the engagement ring on her hand. And quietly asked, "How many decisions have you made in my name?" Vivian turned around. For the first time since Adrian had known her, she had no answer ready. Adrian's question hung in the hallway. "How many decisions have you made in my name?" Vivian's face went pale for half a second. Then the polished expression returned. "Adrian, you're upset. Tonight was emotional." "That isn't an answer." He held up the foundation proposal. My approval is printed on this document. Vivian glanced at it. I was helping you. You excluded the people the scholarship was created for. I protected the foundation from becoming a charity giveaway. Adrian stared at her. It is a charity. Vivian's jaw tightened. You know what I mean. Unfortunately, Adrian was beginning to understand exactly what she meant. People like Nia could clean the ballroom. They could carry trays through it. They could work 16 hours preparing it. But Vivian believed they should never sit at its tables. Adrian lowered the document. Did you remove those 2 housekeeping supervisors from the employee dinner? Vivian's eyes shifted. Who told you that? That's your concern. Nia. She almost spat the name. This is what she wanted. She's been waiting for an opportunity to turn you against me. Adrian gave a tired laugh. Nia was trying to leave 20 minutes ago. She wants you to think she's innocent. No, Vivian. She wanted to keep her job. The simplicity of the sentence silenced her. Adrian looked toward the door Nia had used. For years, he had believed treating employees fairly meant paying well, offering benefits, and remembering a few names. Tonight he realized respect could disappear inside his own house while he was busy congratulating himself for providing it. I need space, he said. Vivian stepped toward him. Adrian. Not tonight. He walked away. The next morning, Nia expected to be fired. Instead, she found Evelyn waiting for her in the breakfast room with 2 cups of coffee. You look terrible, Evelyn said. Nia sat across from her. Thank you. You're welcome. Despite everything, Nia laughed. Then Evelyn became serious. Adrian has been in his office since 5. That doesn't sound unusual. He has interviewed 7 employees. Nia looked up. About Vivian. Evelyn nodded. By noon, the number had become 12. A driver admitted Vivian had once ordered him to wait outside in freezing rain because she didn't want his wet coat visible in the entrance hall. A kitchen assistant described being threatened with dismissal for taking leftover food that had already been approved for staff. A housekeeper revealed Vivian had forced her to replace a broken crystal vase personally, even though security footage showed a guest had damaged it. None of the incidents were dramatic enough to become headlines. Together, they told Adrian something worse. What happened to Nia had not been a loss of control. It had been a pattern. Late that afternoon, Adrian asked Nia to meet him in his office. She remained standing. You can sit. I think chairs have caused enough trouble this week. For the first time all day, Adrian smiled. Then he pushed a folder toward her. Inside were handwritten statements from employees. Nia read only the first page before closing it. I didn't know all of this. Neither did I. Adrian looked ashamed. That's the problem. Nia studied him. What are you going to do? I haven't decided. She frowned. You interviewed 12 people. I know what Vivian did. Then what haven't you decided? Adrian leaned back. Whether I'm ending an engagement because of one terrible night or because I finally discovered I never knew the woman I planned to marry. Nia considered that. Maybe those are the same thing. Before Adrian could answer, Evelyn entered without knocking. She carried an old envelope. I found something. The envelope had arrived at the mansion 3 months earlier. It was addressed to Adrian. He had never seen it. Evelyn placed it on the desk. A former Cole Meridian employee sent this to you. Inside was a letter from Marisol Vega, a banquet supervisor who had resigned after 11 years with the company. Adrian read aloud. I'm leaving because Miss Hart informed me there would be no future for me at Cole Meridian if I continued questioning how hourly employees were being removed from foundation opportunities. Adrian stopped. At the bottom was something even more troubling. Marisol wrote that she had tried contacting Adrian twice. Both messages had been intercepted by Vivian. Nia felt cold. She wasn't only mistreating people. Evelyn nodded. She was controlling what Adrian was allowed to know. Adrian immediately called Human Resources. Marisol's resignation file appeared normal. Too normal. One page included a statement claiming she had left voluntarily for another position. Her signature was underneath. Then Nia noticed something. Wait. She leaned closer. I've seen that handwriting. Adrian looked at her. Where? Nia's memory returned to the gala. Vivian tearing her place card. Before tearing it, she had written something on the back for the event coordinator. Same sharp V. Same unusual loop in the lowercase g. Nia pointed at the signature. I don't think Marisol signed this. Adrian stared at the page. The room became very quiet. This was no longer about arrogance. Someone had falsified an employee's resignation. Adrian reached for his phone. Then stopped. No. Evelyn frowned. What? If Vivian did this, confronting her now gives her time to destroy whatever else exists. Nia understood immediately. So what do you do? Adrian closed the folder. We let her believe I'm still deciding whether to forgive her. That evening, Vivian received a message from Adrian. Dinner tomorrow. Just us. We need to talk. She smiled when she read it. She believed she still had a chance. What she didn't know was that Adrian had already asked Marisol Vega to come back to the mansion. And Marisol had replied with 6 words that changed everything. I kept copies of every message. Vivian arrived for dinner the next evening wearing the same confidence she had worn into every difficult room of her life. She expected flowers. She expected an apology. Most of all, she expected Adrian to be alone. Instead, the dining room doors opened and she found Evelyn seated at one end of the table, Adrian at the other, and a woman Vivian had not seen in nearly a year sitting quietly between them. Marisol Vega. Vivian stopped. Only for a second. But Adrian saw it. Marisol, Vivian said carefully. What are you doing here? Marisol placed a thick folder on the table. Finishing the conversation you made sure I could never have with Adrian. Vivian looked at him. So this is an ambush? No, Adrian said. It's a dinner. You're the one who brought secrets to it. He slid the resignation document across the table. Did Marisol sign this? Vivian barely looked at it. She resigned. That wasn't my question. Silence. Marisol opened her folder. I kept everything. Printed emails. Screenshots. Voice messages. Instructions from Vivian telling foundation staff to remove hourly employees from invitation lists. Messages ordering HR to route complaints through her before they reached Adrian. And one email sent 2 days before Marisol's resignation. If you continue contacting Adrian directly, I will make sure your record says you were terminated for misconduct. Sign the resignation and leave quietly. Vivian's face changed. That proves nothing. Marisol reached for her phone. This might. She pressed play. Vivian's own voice filled the dining room. You people should learn when you've been given enough. Adrian doesn't need every cleaner and server bringing their problems to him. Nobody spoke until the recording ended. Adrian looked down at his hands. Not because he doubted what he had heard. Because he finally understood how long he had allowed his name to become a weapon in someone else's hands. Vivian pushed back from the table. Fine. I made decisions you didn't have time to make. You forged a resignation. I protected your company. You threatened employees. I protected your reputation. You humiliated Nia in front of 300 people. At that, Vivian finally lost control. Because she forgot what she was. The words exploded from her. Evelyn went still. Adrian slowly raised his eyes. Vivian realized too late what she had said. But there was no taking it back. She was sitting beside your grandmother like she belonged there, Vivian continued, desperation turning cruel. People were applauding her. You were thanking her. Do you understand what that looked like? Yes, Adrian said. His voice was remarkably calm. It looked like a woman being treated with respect. Vivian stared at him. Adrian removed the engagement ring box from his jacket. He placed it on the table. You kept asking why I gave Nia my chair. Vivian said nothing. Because you believed the chair determined her worth. He pushed the box toward her. I realized that night it revealed yours. Vivian's breathing changed. Adrian, don't do this. The engagement is over. Her face collapsed. You're throwing away 3 years because of a maid. No. He stood. I'm ending 3 years because I finally saw how you treat people when you believe they cannot hurt you. There was nothing Vivian could say to that. She collected the ring with trembling fingers and left the room without looking at Marisol. 3 days later, Cole Meridian announced an independent review of every employee complaint submitted during Vivian's involvement with the foundation. Marisol's resignation was formally withdrawn from her record. She was offered her old position back. She declined. Instead, Adrian asked her to join a newly created employee advocacy council with direct access to the foundation board. This time, she accepted. Nia learned about the broken engagement from Evelyn. She was setting breakfast on the table when Evelyn simply said, "It's over." Nia stopped. "I'm sorry." Evelyn studied her. "You really mean that, don't you?" "I don't enjoy watching people lose things." "That," Evelyn said softly, "is exactly why you deserved the chair." Several weeks later, Adrian gathered employees from across Cole Meridian for the official launch of the scholarship program. There were no chandeliers. No celebrities. No 300 guests. Just hotel workers, drivers, cleaners, cooks, managers and their families sitting together in a conference hall. Nia stood near the back. That was where she felt comfortable. Until Adrian walked toward her carrying something small. A place card. He handed it to her. Nia looked down. Nia Brooks, founding advisor. She laughed softly. "We're doing chairs again." "Apparently. I'm not taking yours." "You don't need to." Adrian pointed toward the front. There was a seat with her name on it. Not his. Not Evelyn's. Hers. Beside it sat Isaiah, grinning so widely Nia immediately covered her mouth. "You invited my brother. He's one of the first scholarship recipients." Nia's eyes filled. Months earlier, one conversation about families having one bad month had started everything. Now 42 employees' children and siblings were receiving scholarships that year. The first award went to Isaiah Brooks. When his name was called, Nia stood and applauded until her hands hurt. Evelyn reached over and squeezed her arm. Adrian watched from the stage. For once, nobody had given Nia a seat out of pity. Nobody had needed to surrender theirs. She was sitting there because her voice had helped build the table. And the woman who had once been told she didn't belong finally understood something Vivian never had. Belonging was never about being invited into somebody else's world. Sometimes it was about helping create a better one.